What's up, guys? This is Alejandro from Playing with Fire, and I want to do another very detailed text game breakdown that I'm sure all of you have grown to absolutely love and adore by now. So, the first two videos I made were on how to text girls that you meet in real life. You know, that chick that you met at Whole Foods, you know, the old folks home, library, wherever you meet her. How do you text real life numbers, right? Because this is an area I saw a lot of guys fucking up with. Now that I feel like I've adequately covered this, and if you haven't seen those two videos, I highly recommend you check them out now, because a lot of the stuff I'm going to be talking about in this video, it builds on from the shit I talked about in the first two videos. Because let's face it, that girl that you meet at a grocery store versus that girl that you meet on Tinder is still the same fucking female. You know, it's not like some guys think that, you know, there are two extremes. The first extreme is that you text every single girl you meet exactly the same, regardless of where you meet her, or whether it's even like fucking your grandma or something like that. Hopefully you're not fucking your grandma, but your grandma. And secondly is that you have to somehow handle, you know, that these girls that you meet on online dating apps are these mythical creatures that require a whole new whatever approach, and that, you know, just everything goes out the window with them, right? Now, the truth is really somewhere in the middle. There's a lot of concepts that I talked about in the first video that still absolutely apply when it comes to online dating. For example, being straightforward, not being gamey or doing weird shit or trying to be overly fancy or complex. Being very smooth in the way you move things forward, very smooth transitions from point A to point B to point C, picking up on the cues that the girl gives you, and, you know, using them to your advantage. So, for example, if she gives you a layup, you use it to slam dunk, right? So a lot of this stuff I talked about in the first video is absolutely still going to apply. But there are also some subtle differences in how, at least I would text a girl that I met on a dating app versus how I would text a girl that I met in real life, who already kind of has a sense of my personality and, for example, knows a little bit about me, right? So there are also some differences there as well. Also, another thing to keep in mind is that with dating apps, there's a little bit of a social contract. Like, for example, if you meet a girl on Tinder, there's a little bit of a social contract that you're both on there to, at the very least, meet a person in a romantic sense, and that she already approves of you physically. With cold approach numbers, there's not that social contract. It's literally a girl that you saw and you approach, so there's like less of that social implied thing, right? With Tinder, it's more of a applied hookup frame. With other apps, it's more of a dating hookup frame, whatever, right? So that's a big differentiator that will reflect in how I text these girls. So without further ado, let me crack into one of these mythical online dating numbers. Now, I wanted to do one that wasn't super straightforward. I didn't want to do one where the girl was like, hey, you're hot, let's fuck, and it does happen on rare occasion. I want to do one that had some complexity to it. And the big complexity in this one was that I had absolutely shit logistics. So, I've talked about this and written about this in the past. If you have crappy logistics, the best way to think of it as like having like a knee injury. I can teach you guys how to slam dunk with a knee injury, but at the end of the day, you're still playing against the odds, and quite often your knee will fucking give out on you, right? No matter how good of a technique you get. What you want to do is get to the root cause of the problem. I'm a big believer in doing this with every aspect of your life. This is why my neck brace is now off, because I get to the root of problems, right? That's just like what I think you should do with everything. And, you know, if you have shit logistics, the issue isn't the girls or your text game. The issue is that you have shit logistics, and you need to address that root problem by getting good logistics. This will not only make your dating life a lot better, but you'll also feel better about yourself as a man. Because it's kind of hard to feel good when you live in your mom's basement, just purely from like a genetic perspective, I think. Like, your fucking DNA just doesn't vibrate well with that. But in the meantime, while you're getting your logistics figured out, or if you were in a situation like me where I was staying at my mom's place, where I was staying at my mom's for a wedding for a few weeks, right? In a situation, you know, so in situations where you temporarily have shit logistics, or you're still trying to figure out your logistics, you should watch this video where I'm going to walk you through the most optimal optimal approach to handle, shitty logistics, right? I'm using this word a lot here. So the approach with, let's say it fucking again, shit logistics is twofold. First, you want to get the girl absolutely sold, not only on the idea of meeting you, but on the idea of fucking you. So when I have crappy logistics, I frame everything as a very explicit fuck date. Now, when I have good logistics, I usually don't need to go that explicit. I usually leave it more open-ended. I screen the girl a little bit. I'm a big believer in doing some screening, but I find that for me, the most optimal zone is to do some screening, but then leave it a little bit open-ended so that I can get the girls who are maybe not really that hookup oriented, girls who are maybe a little bit more on the dating side, and doing wine at my place, right? Plus I like drinking wine at my place. Right? But when you have shitty logistics, you don't have that luxury. You can't invite a girl for wine at your place. You can either meet her at a bar, or you can meet her at her place, right? Or whatever, hotel. Now, if you haven't set the whole thing up as a fuck date, it's gonna come off pretty creepy when you ask, hey, can we meet at your place? She's gonna be like, why? Right? So, if you wanna, make things easier for yourself down the line, you set it up as a very explicit fuck date. And I'm gonna show you in this interaction exactly how I go about doing so in the most smooth and optimal way. Secondly, once you set everything up as a fuck date, you wanna be very logical, and I wanna say non-pressure chill with the logistics aspect of it. So, some guys will be like, all right, cool, so we're gonna meet at your place, right? Girl will be like, what the fuck? That's not what you wanna do. And I'm gonna show you in the end of the video, once I got her sold on the idea of banging me, how I went about setting up the actual logistical aspect of it. So, let us dive into this Bumble-rella, I guess is the word of mine. So, if you're not familiar with Bumble, it's an app where the girl has to message you first. So in this situation, the girl messages me, hey, with 3 Ys. Now, a lot of guys will be like, oh, what the fuck do you do when a girl doesn't give you much to work with, or she sends you a lame opener, blah, blah, blah. This is what I do. I respond back with, I was waiting for you to message me, and a winky face, right, to show that I'm kind of fucking with her a little bit. This is my favorite way to respond to a shitty opener on Bumble, or really just respond in general on Bumble, unless she gives me a lot to work with off her opener. And she responds back with a winky face, right? So at this point, she really hasn't given me much to work with. Some guys might, take that as a sign that the girl is not interested, or is one of those low investment girls who just is a time waster, and that is the case part of the time. But we don't have enough information yet to make that judgment. She could just be a little shy, a little unsure what to say. That's a common thing. My female friends say to me about Bumble is I don't really know what to say. Girls have some of the same problems guys have as well. So you don't want to make a judgment too quick, is basically what I'm getting at. So I respond with, you're adorable, devil face. So basically what I'm doing is I'm creating a fun, flirty frame that then I'm going to transition. But I started with a fun, flirty frame because I'm not going to start, it's Bumble, it's less hookup oriented. I'm not just going to jump straight into you look like you're going to be a great fuck, even though I wouldn't say that in general because it's kind of crass. You don't want to, I'm not going to jump into the setting up the fuck frame too quickly, right? I want everything to be just a very smooth, gradual, transition. And that's how you increase your odds of pretty much anything. She replies, thank you, you're too, devil face. So, question, who's pug? So now she's investing. This is a good sign. Finally, we broke through this low investment shield, if you want to call it that, and we're getting some investment. Good. I respond with mine, comma, of course. And the logic for me saying that is because, well, aside from actually answering her question, is I'm actually going to mirror back some of her earlier low investment, because I know that will make her invest more. So now that she's investing, I know that I can, by giving her a little bit of a low investment response, I can get her to chase and invest even more. So I'm kind of flipping the dynamic here. And it works because she says, I'm obsessed with pugs, exclamation point, so cute. By the way, I'm half Russian from the Caucasus, haha. And basically what she's doing here is she is qualifying herself, because in my bio I mentioned being Russian, and so she's, well, oh, I'm Russian too, right? It's kind of like you see a guy chasing a girl and the girl's like, oh yeah, I like that movie. He's like, oh, I love that movie too. Yeah, my favorite Meg Ryan movie, right? So it's a more low-key version of that. Like, she's qualifying herself. This is a good sign. This is what you want. And she's doing that because I gave her a little bit of a low investment response, right? Now, you don't want to overdo this part, because then the girl will think either you're not interested or you're just retarded and don't know how to communicate. So you don't want to just constantly give her low investment responses, but you want to sprinkle that in there. So I respond with, cool, I would have guessed Italian or even Latina maybe. Right? So this is just my observation. It's not like really anything gamey in there. She says, haha, no, half Syrian. I respond with sexy combo, winky face, right? So what has happened so far? There's a little bit of that fun, flirty frame. I'm kind of easing in to the sexual stuff, right? Sexy combo. I'm not saying, holy shit, that makes me so fucking hard, you know, like easing into it. She writes back with a winky face. So here I take a little bit of a gamble and amp things up even more, right? Because I want to go from this fun, flirty frame to a more straight up, like, hey, this is how we're gonna fuck frame. So I say, I can tell you have a bit of a wild side as well. I like this text a lot, and I will explain why. With dating apps and just girls in general that you meet, it's not, most guys think it's either not DTF or DTF, right? Those are like the two options. Really, it's a spectrum. It's a giant spectrum. And yeah, you do have the girls who are very DTF, and with them, you don't need to ease into shit. You can just be straight up, especially on dating apps. And then you have girls who are extremely non-DTF, like the prude girls, and who are saving themselves for marriage. And with them, you can really ease into it as long as you want, but unless you actually fucking take her on 10 dates, you're not gonna bang her, right? Like, so those are the two extremes. The majority of girls, doesn't matter where you meet them, real life, club, library, dating app, whatever, are gonna be somewhere in the middle. And with those girls, by being smooth, by kind of building it up, by having gradually transitioning into that, you're gonna increase your odds of getting laid, right? Like, with those girls who are kind of in the middle of the spectrum, if you get into, you know, sex shit too fast, if you're too crass, all that, you're gonna blow it out. So with this text, I'm making sure, I'm screening her, making sure she's not that prude extreme. I also am gonna get a sense of where kind of she lays on the spectrum, which is gonna help me figure out how to proceed down the line. But I'm also sort of moving her in the direction that I want to move her in, right? I think the best way to think of it is maybe like maybe like you're driving a car, but the steering is out, right? Like you can, or like the steering has gone to like complete shit. You can sort of maneuver the car, but you're gonna have to kind of tilt it in the direction that you want to go, right? Not the best analogy, but you kind of get the picture, right? So I'm gonna take her in the direction I want to go, but it's like you can just sort of nudge. You're not gonna be able to really fucking take a girl from being level 3 DTFness to like level 10 DTFness in one text. It's just more of like a nudging type of thing. And she responds positively with I do, and then a devil face and like another emoji. So this is perfect text. She's acknowledging that. And also, this text is a truism for any girl who's on that DTF spectrum, who's not a prude, because most girls like to think that they have a wild side, right? Like, even if the girl has only been with a few guys, she likes to think that, I'm a fun, wild, spontaneous girl. Like, it's just generally a truism for really any girl but the most like extreme prudes. So then I amp it up a little bit more and I say, don't make me bust out the handcuffs with a winky face. So what am I doing here? I'm amping things up, but I'm not going too fast. I'm still throwing in some humor in there. So it's like, an extreme response by me could have been like, don't make me handcuff you to my bed and fuck the shit out of you doggy style or whatever. But that would be a much higher jump in sexual compliance, and I significantly increase my chance of blowback, right? The girl might be like, whoa, like this is getting like too sexual, too fast for me, and I can blow it out, right? And she responds positively by saying, haha, who says I would mind, right? So she responds positively. I can take that as sort of a cue to amp things up even more. So again, I keep mentioning this, but like general slow progressions that just smoothly build on top of each other. I say, my kind of girl, I bet you'd look quite sexy handcuffed to my bed. So then that text that, I mentioned, a less extreme version of the text I just mentioned that would have been too much in the last message is now more appropriate because she responded positively. And she says, she sends me 2 emojis and then says, tell me about yourself with an angel face. So there's 2 ways to interpret when a girl says, tell me about yourself in this context. The first is that she's trying to figure out what your kinks are sexually, but she doesn't want to straight up ask you. The second is that she kind of wants to put the brakes on the sexual combo, at least for the time being, and kind of like make sure that you're a guy who can pick up on social cues and that like there's more to you than just like the sexual side, right? And so I want to figure out, before I respond with anything, I want to figure out what exactly she's getting at. Also, just when a girl says, tell me about yourself, really the best way to respond, even aside from that, what I just mentioned, is what would you like to know? Because when a girl says, tell me about yourself, there's something specific that she wants to know that she's just not asking you yet. And that's why I like to just be like, what would you like to know? Like, you don't want to start, what you don't want to do is start qualifying yourself or just listing random accomplishments. Like, yeah, I won the spelling bee when I was in 3rd grade. I have a 12-inch cock, or, blah, 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 blah. Like, nah, you want to kind of figure out what she's getting at. And she says, what's going on in Persephone? What do you do? ? So in this situation, it was more of the latter. Like she kind of wanted, and again, this girl, as you're going to see in the next few texts, is pretty DTF, but she kind of wanted to make sure that I have some social intuition and I can do more than just talk about sex, right? So she kind of wanted to not put the brakes on the sexting or whatever, it's not even sexting, but kind of make sure there's a little bit more before we dive deeper into it. So I don't think of it as a step back, I think of it as a step sideways, right? I respond with crazy parties, illegal street races, orgies, etc. ... I have a marketing business. How about you? ? So even though it's only a 3-line text, there's a lot to unpack here. What am I doing, right? One is I'm throwing some humor in there, right? So I'm dialing back the sexuality, throwing in some humor, right? Because what she asked me, what's going on in this town? Like I'm not gonna start fucking. Well, there's some cool events, blah blah blah. Like I'm gonna just answer that part with humor. But I throw in also a little bit of sexuality in there, giving her something to bite on. Orgies, right? Like that's that little bit. And then the second part of her question is, what do I do? And to that, I really generally find that you should just kind of give a girl a real fucking response. Sometimes I will give her a little bit of a trollish response and say I'm a male stripper, but the first part of that text was already kind of trollish. You don't want to overdo the fucking trolling, right? So you want to give her a little bit of a realness about you. So I say I have a marketing business, and then you want to make it, at the very least, if you're not a fucking considerate human being, make it seem like you're a considerate human being who's interested in her aside from just fucking her. And you do that by saying, how about you? Tell me about yourself as well. And she bites on that and says, haha, orgies, you're kinky as hell. Now notice how I literally, that's one word out of that whole thing that was sexual, but she just fucking bit on that, right? So that tells me that she's quite a sexual, as all girls are fucking sexual human beings, unless they're, extreme prudes, but that's where her mind is at. Then she says, I'm studying business and law. I don't do orgies. I'm too selfish. Again, she's talking about the orgies, even though it was literally one word that I said. I work as a babysitter and bartender, right? So how do I respond? I say, cool, just no babysitting during our romantic date. And yes, I am, period. I get the feeling you are as well. So again, a lot to unpack. First is, I want to give her something that's not like respond to the non-sexual part of her. Like she just told me what she does for work, blah, blah, blah. So I want to acknowledge that, and I'm going to acknowledge it in the best way I know how, in like kind of a humorous way, right? Like, oh, just don't be babysitting during our romantic date, right? So first thing I want to do is acknowledge the non-sexual part. Then I want to start segueing back into the sexual, I guess, direction I was heading in, because that's, well, first of all, that's what I want, and secondly, that's kind of what she's also like, she's giving me this fucking ammunition, like I'm gonna use it. So I acknowledge. She says, you are kinky as hell. You want to own that shit. Like you don't want to be like, well, only on the second day. Like, yes, I am. Like, yeah, absolutely. And then I get the feeling you are as well. Like, I am kinky, and I know you are too. I get it. Like, it's cool. So that's I think, in my opinion, the best way to answer that kind of text. And it works, because she says, haha, don't act like a child, then I won't have to babysit. I am, winky face. When will this romantic date happen? So she's trying to make a joke. She's responding to my humor with more humor. Actually, as a quick side note, a good way to minimize flaking when you're doing like fuck dates is to also have in there more than just fucking sex talk. It doesn't have to be much. Like I actually did, I believe this is in the mastermind, but I did an interview, like a legit interview. This girl I was like, hey, listen, I have this, this business. I help guys, meet girls online. It would be really helpful if I can pick your mind, because I was really impressed with how this one girl I met was super honest. And big thing we got into was flaking. How can guys minimize flaking? She's like, honestly, dude, like I am I'm like one of the most DTF girls a guy can meet, but I want a guy to at the very least say one non-sexual thing in our conversation. If it's been just all sexual, I'm more likely to flake, because I don't think there's anything special about it then, right? So that's just a quick side note. You can minimize flaking by making sure you incorporate at least a little bit of non-sexual talk in your whole thing, right? And then, so she makes a joke. She says, when will this romantic date happen? So then she's actually escalating on me and getting into logistics. Now, if I had my own logistics at this point, I literally would have just been like, what's your schedule like, blah, 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 and just completely like not done any more text game. However, I feel like at this point, even though it's implied we're gonna hook up, it's not explicit. And I need it to be explicit so that I can get away with what I'm gonna do down the line with all the logistical shit, right? I still feel like at this point, if I say, is your place an option, it's gonna come off a little bit out of the blue, and I could get ghosted or flaked on, blah, blah, blah. So I wanna make sure that she's absolutely sold. Sorry for the fucking Heil Hitler gestures, but anyway, I wanna make sure she's absolutely sold on the idea of not meeting me, because she's already sold on that, but fucking me. So I'm gonna do a little bit more. So in this case, because I have shit logistics, I respond with, what's your schedule like? And biggest turn on / fantasy, right? She gave me a little bit of a layup with the logistics, so I'm gonna build on that and get her schedule, but then I'm gonna segue back into the fuck date talk and build it up even more. She says free evenings during the week and Fridays. Next Saturday I'm working. I work randomly. So, okay, cool. Know her schedule. Turn on fantasy. I love being dominated. Haha, not to the full extent. I like to choke back. Winky face. Yours. So, okay. She's giving her logistics good. And then she's full on. And this is good because I can tell that feels comfortable with me, because she's sharing. She's like, I like to be dominated. And this is, by the way, this is how most girls feel. They like to be dominated. They like to be choked. They like kinky shit. Just some girls will be much more upfront about it. and you increase your chance of getting the girl to be upfront about it by showing her that you're also a sexual guy who gets it and who's not judgmental and who's like also into some kinky shit. So basically what she gave me is her turn on fantasy, which is something that I sort of kind of know because most girls are like that, but now with this information, I can really drive the point home that if we meet and bang, it's gonna be fucking awesome for her. Because again, what's a common complaint girls have with guys? Sex sucks, because the guy had no idea what he was doing. I don't want to tell her that I know what I'm doing, I want to show her that I know what I'm doing. This is another key theme. I like to show, not tell, right? So, I use her answer to craft a little bit of a sex. Like maybe being pinned down to the bed and having me slide my cock deep inside. Okay, so this is the first bit of actual sexting that I did. I personally don't like to do too much sexting. My business partner has a completely different philosophy on that, but I like to do just enough to drive the point home that if we meet, it's gonna be a fucking great sexual experience for her. But I don't like to overdo it. I want to be the guy that's like fucking sexting her all the time. I'm personally just that style does not work well for me. And then she asked me about my turn-ons, so I respond with, I'm into spanking, choking, hair pulling, and of course going down and seeing how many screaming orgasms I can give a girl. That's my Academy Award winning speech. Now I find that this line works great on literally the vast majority of girls. No matter what their kinks are, girls generally like that response, and if there's something in there that they don't like, they will be like, oh cool, I'm into all that minus the choking or something like that, right? I knew this girl was gonna fucking bite on that. And she's like, I'm into all of that, ha ha ha. And then she says, I love being abused, but most guys want to make love, only had 2 sexual partners. All right, so definitely something to unpack here. One is that she likes it fucking rough, but most of the guys she's encountered haven't been able to sexually satisfy her. So this is where me differentiating myself and showing her that I'm one of those guys that can really fuck her well is gonna play a huge role in her meeting up with me instead of like the 100 other guys who are barraging her phone. And actually, I'm gonna skip ahead and tell you that when we met up, after we banged, because one thing I like to do is like actually see girls like Bumble or Tinders and see what guys are messaging them. And I was like, obviously like I already know this shit, but like it's always I'm like, wow, like you have so many guys hitting you up, like this is insane. And she's a hot girl, which makes sense, but like it's just like when you see it, it still fucking blows my mind. And then I'm like, what made you meet up with me instead of all these guys who like fucking asked you out tonight? She's like, literally, because I was quite confident if I met up with you, I was gonna get fucked really well. I wasn't so sure about that with all these other guys, right? Because I drove the point home that this was gonna be a great sexual experience for her. So I had her sold, not just on the idea of meeting me, but the idea of fucking me. 2 things that are related, but are not necessarily the same thing. So the other thing to unpack here is only had 2 sexual partners, which means that she's a late bloomer or that she's very selective about who she fucks, right? So it's like, you know, it's almost like, I've had girls explain this to me, and I have a hard time relating to this, but I can understand and empathize with this, is that some girls, at least younger ones, they view like for guys, for example, like the more sexual partners they have, the more girls they fuck, it's like, yeah, this increases my value. But some girls view it as like the more guys they fuck, it almost like decreases their value. And like I always tell girls, don't fucking think that way. Like this is how many guys a girl has had sex with has 0 impact on how much I value her as a person. The only number that has any impact is 0, because then I think, okay, why is she like a fucking virgin at the age of 28? But aside from that, whatever number she gives me, I won't judge her for like, but girls will be like, oh, but like a guy won't want to date a girl who's been with 50 guys. That's why girls will lie about their lay count to the vast majority of guys. Again, they won't lie to me about it because I show that I don't give a shit. And if I could change one fucking thing in this world, I mean, there's many things I would change. Obviously, world hunger and whatnot is on that list, but I would change that like fucking crazy like social programming that exists that, you know, a girl's value is determined by the number of sexual partners she has. No, it is not. It has nothing to do with your value as a person. Just like for a guy, if you fucked 100 girls or 10 girls, has nothing to do with your value as a guy, right? So I'm working on it one girl at a time. So I respond with, well, so sorry for that giant fucking rant. Well, it's your lucky night. How rough can you handle? So here what I'm doing is I'm driving the point home. I'm saying that kind of a crossover between saying and showing. Hey, listen, if you meet up with me, this is going to be a great fucking sexual experience. And then almost like I'm screening her. How rough can you handle? Like basically what I'm subcommunicating is, girl, you like it rough? I like it rougher, right? Like, but I'm not saying that, I'm showing that. She says rough with like 5 H's, haha. So I respond with, oh, we're going to have a lot of fun together, right? Again, like assuming that she passed my test, right? Like that I'm actually the one that's like, that's had all these girls who are like fucking too soft and can't fuck me right? She says, you have me at the best time, straight out of a relationship. I need it, devil face, right? Now, key thing to keep in mind is the reason she's telling me that is because up to this point, I made it seem that I'm like part of the 1% of guys who fucking gets it, that girls love sex. You want to be part of that crowd. That girls love sex, that you're not going to judge a girl for, you know, expressing her sexuality, blah, blah, blah. So that's why she's telling me this straight up. And I say, at this point, I sold her on the idea of a fuck date. Now I can go into logistics. Only now do I feel like I can adequately crack into logistics, and I have enough, let's just say, buy-in from the girl for me to straight up ask about her place and whatnot. So I say, first I want to lock down a day, so I say, good, you free tomorrow or Sunday evening? She says Sunday evening. Okay, compliance is starting to build again in terms of logistical compliance. She agrees to Sunday evening. Next, I'm going to ask about her place. Now, I find the best way to ask, because I kind of have a hierarchy when my place is not an option. First I ask about her place, then car, sex, then hotel, because I'm kind of cheap and don't like spending money on hotels. But my first go-to is her place. Now I find the best way, some guys, you know, they overthink this, and they like try to do like weird shit by saying, perfect, I'll come over your place with a bottle of wine, but like you haven't asked about her place. Like she's like, I never said you can come over my place. So I find the best approach is just to straight up ask, perfect, and is your place an option? Keep in mind, this will only work if you ever sold on the idea of fucking you. She says, no, I just sold my apartment in whatever, and moved back with my parents. So I find about 50% of the time, a girl's place logistically won't work. So this is not her saying, I'm not comfortable with you coming over. This is her saying, no, my place won't work because I live with my parents. So I say, same here actually. I have another idea. So the reason I do it that way is because I want her to like pique her curiosity. And she says, haha, what is your idea? And I respond with my romantic and very roomy SUV. So throw a little bit of humor in there, but basically what I'm saying is like, let's fuck in my car in a little bit less of a crass way, right? She says, haha, definitely would need a few drinks for that one. So what is she communicating with that text? She's not saying that no, but she's saying that this is a little bit outside my comfort zone. Like, I might be down for it, but it's a bit outside my comfort zone. Now, if something's outside a girl's comfort zone, you increase your odds of being flaked on, having her change her mind, because while I may have gotten her in that moment where, you know, comfort zone is not a black and white thing, it stretches based on mood and feeling. I may have gotten her a little bit more like kind of horny now and shit, but the next day she wakes up and it's kind of back to baseline. So I kind of pick up on that information. I decide not to risk it and go with the plan C, which is more safe in this situation. Or even better, I'll get a hotel and we can split a bottle of wine there. Just bam, knocking it out of the park. And she responds back with a winky face. Now some guys might not be sure where to go from there, but I know that in this situation, it's a yes, I'm down. At this point, I say, shoot me your number, because everything is fucking set up, but I want to move it over text. It's just builds an extra layer of investment, reduces chance of flaking, blah, blah, blah. You know, I don't think this girl would have flaked if I hadn't moved it over to text. Just better that way. You know, you can call, whatever, move it over to text once you have everything set up. All right, so we moved things over. We got her number, moved things over to text. You know, some guys might want to wait like a fucking few days or a few lifetimes to message her. I don't do that. I literally just message her like a few hours later. Hey, it's Alex from the thing. She responds with, hey, only giving me 2 Y's this time. Highly disappointing. I respond with, what are you up to? Now, I like that text because I think of text game kind of like chess. You don't want to just go straight for the checkmate. You want to put yourself in a position so that when you actually go for the check, it actually leads to a checkmate. Anyway, so the reason I like this text is because usually when you ask her what she's up to, she will tell you what she's doing, and then she'll ask you about you, and then I can tell her what I'm doing, which is what I really want. So she says, just showered, going to the city in a little you question mark. Perfect. If a girl doesn't ask you about you, it's usually actually a pretty bad sign. It means that she doesn't give a shit, which means like probably lack of investment, lack of interest. So she responds with you question mark, and I sent her a picture that I knew she was going to respond well to. It's a picture I took several months ago. It's basically a pair of handcuffs, a Magnum condom, and a paddle, right? And if you actually want to see what this picture looks like and this whole interaction, I'm going to post the link below, but make sure you go in the forums where I outline every single one of these screenshots so you can go through them line by line. So I sent her that picture and say, just organizing my room. So like a little bit of humor while fucking sexualizing even though it's already sexualized. I want to keep that vibe going up until our date, right? Keep the lead hot, so as to speak. She says, too bad I can't come in your room. So I respond with, don't worry, I'll bring everything with me, so there'll be plenty of coming tomorrow, devil face. So I'm a big fan of like fucking double entendres and like these like weird little fucking uses of the English language. But yeah, so basically again, fun and flirty, but also what I'm doing with that text is I'm reminding her of our date, right? So it's like a little very low-key reminder, oh, we're meeting tomorrow, right? This is gonna be a big thing that you're gonna see in the next several screenshots is I'm always just kind of like low-key confirming, low-key reminding. She sends me an emoji. Next day of our meetup, I personally find it's best to, well, you know, the day of the meetup, I usually like to send a text that's unrelated to our meetup. Then when she responds to that, then I confirm, right? So kind of rebuild a little bit of momentum before you go for the confirmation. Obviously with this girl, she was so down, I wouldn't have to do any of that, but I always try to do everything optimally to maximize my chances. So I sent her a BDSM meme, which I knew she was going to be into. She responds with ha ha ha, and then I go for the confirmation, hey, still good for tonight. That's usually my favorite way of confirming, just straight up asking the girl. She says, yes, perfect. So I respond with, cool, how does 9 sound? Now I want to lock down the exact time. She says, good, where, question mark? And I sent her a screenshot of the hotel I had found, right? She responds with, sounds good, perfect. So about an hour before the date, I text her, so I've already confirmed. Now I do another like low-key reminder. I say, hopping in the shower, text me when you're on the way. I like to do these low-key reminders because sometimes a girl, you know, she might be nervous, she might have some cold feet, so you want to kind of like show her like, hey, listen, I'm still interested. Because if a girl is having second doubts, if she senses that you're not interested, that's going to give her a reason not to show up. So you want to making sure, you know, like, hey, I'm still totally down for this. She says, okay, and then half an hour later she texts me on the way. I say, cool, leaving now as well, what's your ETA? She says 9:20, and I say perfect. And then I think I called her as I was like a few minutes outside because I was like, I think I had made a wrong turn, so I was running late. But you know, chatting on the phone for a few minutes. I pull up to the hotel. She's actually already inside the front desk. And then, you know, I had everything already set up as a fuck date, so really there's no game required. I see her. I open with the, you know, like fucking, I'm like, oh, hey, honey, how's your day at work? So I give her a hug, like pretending like she's my wife. It's kind of like, you know, it's a little bit of like, I can tell she feels like a little tense in the beginning, but that kind of lightens the mood for everyone. The fucking receptionist who knows that we're two strangers meeting there to fuck for her, and, you know, I don't really give a shit, but it's funny for me anyway, so win-win-win. Then we go inside the hotel, and, you know, we bang, right? So super straightforward. So afterwards, I talk about this also extensively in the product. Once you bang a girl, how do you turn her into a rotation girl? For me, it all starts with the post-sex text. And again, if you're interested in learning exactly how to do that, check out the product. I covered that extensively in there. But basically, the post-sex text for me usually is "that was" and then flame emoji, kind of like a little also spin on playing with fire. That was hot. She responds with "it was," winky face, and then she says, "too bad you're leaving now after date to get it on, haha." What she's referencing is that when we were talking after we banged, she mentioned how a lot of guys, they're like clueless, and that like even if she like hints at the fact that she's DTF, these guys will want to like take her on a bunch of dates before they make their move, right? So that's what she was referencing at. I say, I'm sure there are other degenerates like me out there. She says, haha, you're not a degenerate, right? So if I had wanted to, I just unfortunately was leaving town. This would have easily been set up as a very solid booty call and potential for more because I like this girl. So what are the lessons here, right? Well, when you have shit logistics, again, I hammered this in the beginning of the video, you really want to make sure the girl's sold an idea of fucking you before you crack into logistics. Then when you actually go into logistics, do it in a kind of like a logical but also low pressure, chill kind of way. Hey, is your place an option? I have a better idea, my romantic SUV. All right, let's get a hotel. That's usually like the last one, right? So go down the line and for some guys, what's it called? Like fucking a hotel might be preferable to car sex, so they can make that number 2 instead of 3, right? But for me, I just go down the line, kind of very chill, low key, non-pressure when it comes to logistics. And also the big theme is that everything I'm doing, I hammered this also, keep using the word hammer a lot, a little fucking irony, but in the first video it says everything is just a very smooth transition. So we started with fun and flirty vibe, then it was a smooth transition to like kind of like sex talk and setting it up as a fuck date, very smooth transition, along with some sexting in there, showing her, not telling, but showing her that I'm a guy that will give her the ultimate sexual experience, which will significantly reduce flaking. But at the same time, earlier showing her that I'm also a normal guy who's not like some kind of sex freak. I'm a normal guy who understands, how has social intuition and can, pick up on social cues, right? Showing her that, and then a smooth transition to logistics, and then a smooth transition to confirming and the actual meetup. Everything just flows on top of each other. Everything is a smooth transition. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I went a lot longer than I usually do. I felt like some things really needed to just be driven home, just like hammer the same points over and over again. And I'm gonna keep doing more of these breakdowns. So if you want to see more online dating, whatever breakdowns with different situations, let me know. Either way, I'm gonna fucking make them, but let me know what specific scenarios you'd like to see, because for whatever your weird situation is, I'm sure I've been there at some point, or at the very least know people who have and can do a detailed breakdown for it. Make sure you hit like to this video so that I can get ranked higher in the YouTube algorithm, of course. Make sure you hit the subscribe button to our YouTube channel for updates, and also make sure you check out the forums where you can see this full interaction start to finish, and also ask me questions, get real advice. Right now we're building up the forums, becoming a very active community. I'm extremely excited about it, and stay tuned to the next video. See you guys soon. Ciao.